Okay, Russia doesn't participate in this summit exactly because Russia doesn't agree to return to Ukraine the control over Ukraine's sovereign territory. So basically, territorial integrity is something which is absolute majority of United Nations members are agreeing to, and even Russia and Ukraine had the bilateral agreement signed by President Putin many years ago about the borders between Ukraine and Russia. And now Russia violated actually this, and Russia is not ready to leave Ukrainian territory, which they have occupied last year or partially in 2014, like Crimea or part of Ukrainian Donbass. And it means that as of now, there is basically no ground. So Ukraine is not gonna negotiate about selling out Ukraine's territory. So the importance of this kind of attempts is, first of all, to extend the Ukraine's diplomacy in a global south, which Russia pretends to cover with its narratives about the war exclusively between Russia and the West, when Ukraine is not a sovereign actor at all. And as of now, this is the first point to show that Ukraine is treated like completely the single actor of international politics, not only by Western states, but also by a number of significant players in Asia, in Africa, in Middle East, and in Latin America. Second is just to show that the idea of territorial integrity, the idea of persecution of war criminals for this war, and of justice, meaning reparations, for instance, from Russia. This is not just Ukraine's desires. This is just something which can be applied and should be applied to any kind of conflict happening anywhere on the globe. And from this point of view, it's very important that players like India, China, number of Middle East countries, Mexico, South Africa are participating and contributing to this discussion. Basically, as of now, we see that not almost everyone who was participating in the summit have agreed yesterday upon this very basic principle that Ukraine should restore its territorial integrity in the borders of 1991, which were first violated in 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea and Ukrainian Donbass, and secondly in 2022. So this is the very important starting point. But after this meeting and after this consensus, there will be, I hope, some operational meetings on operational tactical levels about more practical steps. So how to introduce this idea, how to bring Russia to more constructive dialogue, how to, if not Russia agree to that, then how to influence Russia's position, because the peace formula is not just about Ukraine's territory, it's about security in the region, which has global consequences and implications. We see that the global food crisis is a direct consequence of the lack of grain export from Ukraine, and the lack of this grain export from Ukraine is the threats coming officially from the Ministry of Defense of Russia that any ship coming to Ukrainian seaport will be considered as a target by the Russian Navy. And that's why, as of now, everyone in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Central Africa are afraid of shortages of grain, wheat, and other types of agriculture which were exported from Ukraine. So it's all interconnected, and we see that global players somewhere in other regions far away from Europe should be interested as much as Ukraine is in bringing Russia to international law, meaning that security has to be restored in Black Sea and around Ukraine generally. One of the main messages that Russia is pushing forward internationally, that Russia is not isolated exactly because they have many links and relations with some countries in the global south. But recently, we have seen two important steps. So first of all, the summit between African countries and Russia summit was a complete diplomatic failure because it didn't reach Russia's expectations, neither in terms of number of heads of the states represented at this summit from Africa, nor in terms of content, because even the president of South Africa has openly said that they don't need just presence from Russia in terms of several ships with grain. They need the grain corridor from Ukraine to be restored fully and undoubtedly. So it was one step. And what we are observing right now in Saudi, in Jeddah, it's another important that Russia is not actually, doesn't have that kind of leverage they pretend to have, because politically and diplomatically, countries in other regions beyond Europe are interested in having talks with Ukraine, that Ukraine is not considered as an equal party in this war, having equal responsibility as Russia has for this war. So Ukraine is here considered to be a victim, seeking for a peace and restoration of the peace. So basically, I wouldn't expect that Russia will fall in a full isolation after the Saudi meeting. No, but if we consider in what position diplomatically Russia was 1.5 years ago, before they invaded Ukraine on a large scale, and the position Russia finds itself now, there is a huge gap. So Russia has lost almost all its exports and has to redirect it just to several countries like India and China at a huge discount. At the same time, they have lost possibility to import, which is again about their economic isolation, and they have to find some other third ways to import important stuff to their country through Kazakhstan or through the China again. And thirdly, diplomatically, Russia hasn't received any support in any international organization when it comes to its war on Ukraine. And basically only Belarus as of now and Syria were supporting the Russia's war on Ukraine. None of any other countries, who are just seeking maybe some economic benefits from Russia weakening politically and economically. But it's not about being, global power for Russia anymore.